All roads lead to Trickster. Hey, I'm Cyclon, and today I want to give you an update on my Kinetic Blaster, who is now a Trickster. Now, a lot has changed in the build. I've been blasting a lot, I'm investing like crazy into this build, and now I can finally share with you the semi-mirror version. Now, I say semi-mirror because on some items, I just been cheaping out over and over. Whenever I tried to upgrade them, I was in a low currency state because I just invested heavily into a different item that allowed me to swap to others. And with that swap, I was then only able to get them into a decent state, not into a perfect state. So, and I later go over the items, I will also go over how they would look in an ideal scenario. That said, let's take a look at this Trickster. Now, first, actually, when should you swap to the Trickster version? I swapped when I had a Mirror Wand, a Simplex Amulet, and I farmed up a Mage Blood. I'd only swap then because the Mage Blood solves some issues we solve in some ways on the Warden. We solve war easily with the Mage Blood, but we lose the temporary power gain from the Headhunter, so we needed to solve damage first, which we did do by utilizing the Mirror Wand and the Simplex Amulet and just having a crazy amount of intelligence on the build. Now that we solved the damage, we are able to go Trickster, and Trickster allows us following things. So, starting with the first thing. Why do we want a Mage Blood? We want a Mage Blood to be Reflect Immune. Then we gain this by utilizing a Mage Blood, and then we need, I think it was at least 90% increase effectiveness, and a 55, or I think it's a little above 90 increase effectiveness. It's a 54% roll to take reduced reflect damage. This goes all the way to 100. PUB can calculate it, so that's why the number is right there. But with this flask, plus with a reflect flask and a Mage Blood, we go fully immune to reflect damage. Doesn't matter if it's elemental or fist. So we can rout off mana, we can do basic attacks, we can shield charge into enemies. We do not take reflect damage. This is one advantage of the Trickster. Another advantage of the Trickster is that we can approach 90% max res by utilizing a Topaz Flask, a Bismuth Flask, and a Melding of the Flesh with a -4 to all max res roll, and then utilizing +2 to +3 max res on the shield, and +5 max res from the tree, and then a final +3 from the body armor, we are able to go 100%, 90% max res. Now, if you have a mirror body armor, you don't have the +3 on the body, or you only have +2 on the body, you need to also gain one more. If you have +3 on the body, you need only +2 on the shield. And if you have +2 on the shield, you need +3 on the body. You can also go +2 on the helmet. However, I do like the reduced mana cost on attacks because we attack a crazy amount with this build, so I try to solve it with body shield. So this is the second benefit of being on a Trickster. We have max res at 90% now. We are also curse immune with a different flask, so we can use a rare shield instead of the Aziri shield. So this means that that elemental weakness is no longer reducing our max res. This means only the max res roll is reducing the max res. So we never are gonna be not theoretically at max res because our resistances were reduced. We are always gonna be at the max res available in that map. Then we can get fully Iron Immune again with the Mage Blood by using Avoid Chance to be Shocked with a Storm Shroud Jewel. So we have a Storm Shroud, we have a Storm Shroud Jewel, and we have a Flask rolled with Avoid to be Shocked, again increasing the effectiveness of the Flask until we have 100% chance to avoid shock, which avoids everything. And with this, we fully utilize the Mage Blood for maximizing our survivability. Now, the Trickster doesn't stop there. We also drop the Balance of Terror because we have one step ahead, meaning we no longer need to manually cast Temp Chains to get immunity to action speed reduction. Furthermore, we gain an incredibly boost for evasion energy with Escape Artist, and we use Soul Drinker, which gives us attack speed, but also gives us Overleech. So we no longer need a node to gain Energy Leech, or we no longer need Ghost Reaver. We can just use Soul Drinker. So we now leech portion of our damage is Energy Shield, allowing us to overleech the ES, and whenever we get hit, with that we get completely healed up again in a moment. Now on some maps, we will not have leech because we rolled cannot leech or reduce recovery rate, and it's because of map effect it's at 100. In that case, we have a Watcher's Eye with energy shield on hit, so we also gain a crazy amount of ES on hit, and again solving our survivability that way. Now, because of this crazy amount of attacking we're gonna be doing, we still do need instant leech. Even though we don't have any effectiveness of the life leech, we still have the mana leech, the mana on hit, and the instant leech to keep our mana at all at 100% of the reserved state at every time, because we just need that much mana on this build. We attack a crazy amount. So this is the survivability package the Trickster allows. We also gain a lot of ES on kill, and mana on kill, and we have more damage because we use a bunch of different masteries, and that is basically that much. Now, there is one more thing that a Trickster needs to solve that a Warden didn't need it to solve, and that is crit. To get our crit chance in, we are using the following. We have high voltage, giving us increased critical strike chance against shocked enemies. We use a Watcher's Eye with increased crit chance while affected by Wrath, and we use a Diamond Flask. With this, we are almost crit capped. We then can optional use power charges. However, on Abyss maps, power charges and the node before it, power charge and kill the node before it, is one of the first two nodes I drop to pick up Arcane Sanctuary for the caster mastery. Other two nodes I drop is Trickery, and I also drop the Mark Mastery. Now, I'm currently using Red Altast, which allows me to use power charges and frenzy charges. If you're still on Ether, you don't want charges anyway. But yeah, that has been the Trickster package. Now, on top of the Trickster package, I added another crazy interaction on this build that is incredibly powerful. And that is utilizing the new unique Coiling Whisper. This unique says that targets are unaffected by our hexes and reduced AoE of hexes. However, we need to be aware that Sniper's Mark is a spell curse without a duration, meaning it is still applicable even if we use a Coiling Whisper. Now, how are we then gaining the when 90% of your hex duration expires on an enemy, eat 1 soul per enemy power? How are we gaining access to that? Well, the answer is easy. We use a sheer charge linked with a hex touch and a curse of our choice. In my case, I went with temp chains. Now, whenever we charge into something, they get cursed, and when the duration expires, then when the curse duration expires, then we gonna get our our Soul Eater charges. However, there is a small caveat to this. Temp chains on level 1 has a 5-second duration. To reduce this duration, we need a Helical Ring with curse skills have reduced skill effect duration. We can only get this if we get the Delve mod with recomping on a Helical Ring and then fracture it on it, so we can also get attributes and intelligence on it, and then we need to reflect mist it just so that it goes negative, because normally it's an increased skill effect duration, and this is the only way we can get it to a reduced skill effect duration. And with this, we suddenly have 45 Soul Eater charges at any point in the map, because we can just shield charge into a pack of enemies and it basically caps out. Maybe the second shield charge, but regardless. It is incredibly powerful because this gives us something like 200% attack speed, which gets our Kinetic Blast all the way down to 0.1 attack time. And if we also use Focus with increased attack speed while focused, this becomes even faster. We are just in an insane speed on attacks, which allows us to be incredibly quick through our maps with shield charge and use Kinetic Blast with an insane attack rate. Right. Then there are a few more updates on the Trickster version, of course. Because we no longer need conversion, on our gloves we can now go with intelligence, attack speed, and energy shield. In an ideal scenario, we would have the suffix veil, attack and cast speed while focused, and a prefix craft damage while leeching. And then we have a perfect gloves. I did not manage to get that. I got the prefix veil physical damage reduction while focused and crafted attack and cast speed while focused. The implicits on the, because we now freed up the conversion, the implicit change is that we still have rage, but we have increased damage per 100 intelligence. If you want to go all in, this would be 4%, but you will be needing Orb of Conflict. You will need to use an Orb of Conflict to get it to 4%, which can be a costly process, but at this stage of the build, you should do it. Again, I just cheaped out on it because I did the craft on a low stage, on a low currency stage, or the high currency stage. You should do it. The boots, we no longer need shock avoidance, so we can instead have a fractured abyss socket, and then we have intelligence and energy shield. We do need 3 30% resistances on the build. We can get those on boots, shield, helmet, so that we have those resistances all at 100%, at 90%, and we don't have them under cap. The flask is not enough because of the minus 70 resistances on the melding. Then on the helmet, we now can use either intelligence, energy shield, resistances. We want a prefix Piercecraft, or we want a Rake and Fork on our KB. I went for the damage variation, so I have the Piercecraft. Prefixes are implicits are mana reservation and mana cost, or reservation and lightning resistances, depending if you want it on your body or not. On the body armor, we want intelligence, preferably spell suppression attributes as the suffixes, and preferably global defenses and as much energy and evasion rating as we can get. If you do not want to go with the global defenses variation because it is too expensive, because there we're going near mirror on the body armor, which again at this stage is arguably what we should be doing, but sometimes we just cheap out, then you go for just as much evasion rating and energy shield on the prefixes. Implicits are less damage taken per int, or physical damage converted to chaos damage, completely mitigating that, and maximum lightning resistance or arctic armor buff effect. Keep in mind you want to first be at a capped resistances of 90, and then we can look at other things. Because we are still using a Bound by Destiny, and I wanted the Abyss socket on my boots, and I did not want to have it in a the annoyance of crafting with it in a non-fractured state, I went for a Crusader shield. Now, we actually don't use any Crusader mods. In an absolute ideal world, we could have a Crusader Shaper shield and have the chance to gain ES on block, max res, intelligence, and then have the prefixes be as much energy as we can get. However, because we need the resistance roll, I recommend max res, resistance, intelligence as the suffixes, and gain as much energy shield on the prefixes as we can get. And that has been the gear update. On a passive tree, I am now using 2 35 increase effect clusters. One is with all res and energy shield. The other one is with always attributes intelligence, preferably also had energy shield here, but it did not want to roll after 100 attempts, and I landed on evasion, which was near perfect, so I stayed with it. I am not using a third cluster. Instead, I'm using a Light of Meaning. The Light of Meaning is with increased energy shield. If you want to cheap out here, at first you can go all attributes. Energy shield is gonna net you less attributes, but because we use Tranquility, we gain increased damage from it. And this is more ES than an attributes one, so it is overall better. Because we have this massive wand wheel here, we actually gain more points if we put it next to high voltage and CI than if we would put it next to acrobatics at the bottom on the ranger spot. It is just slightly better over there, but we are spending 3 points for the jewel, which 2 points for the jewel socket, which gives us mana and ES, but they also give us ES, so it's fine enough. And that has been the build update. I will be leaving you with a POB in the description, of course. If there's anything unclear, you have any question regarding this build, feel free to ask. Comments are open. I will still be live streaming every day, and I will still be answering every question asked on Discord. All this being said, have a lovely day, and I'll be seeing you either live on my next stream or on my next video. Goodbye.